Hello everybody and welcome back to the Son of the Morning Comics channel, and it's Wacky Wednesday today, and this is the fourth Wacky Wednesday that we've done here on the channel. And so today what we're going to be looking at is Lex Luthor, the Unauthorized Biography. Very interesting, very different. Was by James D. Hudnall, Eduardo Barreto, and with Adam Kubert, and very cool stuff. I like it. And now I don't know if this was this listed as an Elseworld story. Didn't see it anywhere, but I'll read. I like the back of the book, so I'm gonna read it. He says he's the second most powerful man in Metropolis, and it was only a matter of time before multi-millionaire Lex Luthor's story could be told. Unfortunately for biographer Peter Sands, that time has yet to come. Rather, it would appear Sands' time is up. Lex Luthor, the Unauthorized Biography, traces the rise to power of blah blah blah. Okay, anyway, I wanted to read that first part. So, interesting story. So, in the beginning here, we just have Lex Luthor with his girlfriend, and he's being Lex Luthor, his charming self. Now, over here, he wants to watch a tape. You can see he's putting a tape into his TV. What the tape is of an interrogation of Clark Kent, because he is believed to be the murderer of the writer of the Unauthorized Biography of Lex Luthor, Peter Sands. So, obviously, we know Clark Kent doesn't kill people, so we know that this is obviously some kind of setup, and the fact that Lex has access to the police recordings of these interviews kind of lets you know that Lex owns the cops in town. They interrogate Superman. They show him a picture of, like, the dead body, how it was found. They're playing good cop, bad cop with him, knowing that, or hoping that he'll give it up. So then we flip over. This is where we meet Sands. This is him waking up in the morning, hungover, to call from an attorney about a late alimony payment, that sort of thing. So he's not the most upstanding citizen in the world, is kind of what we're trying to, I think they're trying to get across here in his introduction to the story. So he says, gonna go through my, for starters, he thought he pissed himself, but realized he just spilt wine all over himself in his sleep, or while he was super drunk. So he does his, daily routine of showering, taking 4 extra strength Tylenols, shaving, and then starting to call around to see who can lend him money. And so he starts calling all of the different publishers he's worked with in the past. They're all pretty much giving him the no. And then he gets a phone call, and he's wondering, should I answer the phone? Is it another, person looking for money? Or should I, you just forget about it? The curiosity gets to him. He picks up the phone. It's a publisher for a person working for Tinseltown Press, and they're looking for a salacious story, much like the Marilyn Monroe murder book that he had written, most likely at a much better time in his career. So, we learn they're looking for a story. He's like, sure, of course, I've got one for you. Picks up the paper. First person he sees is Lex Luthor, so he offers him up as the subject for the book that he's going to write. Asks for an advance. They give him the advance. He says that he needs it now, so she sends him $3,000. Back over to Luthor, you can see here now the picture where it shows that, I guess, as Sands was dying, he wrote Clark Kent with his own blood, so that, I guess, whoever found him would know that who the real killer was. So, back to him still living. he decides he's going to go to the library. He picks up his Lex Luthor's autobiography called Simply Brilliant, which I think is simply brilliant. And, it's from a while back, but it gives him some of the information he needs to start. Then he goes into the library. He's already in the library. He checks out that book, and he goes and he does a little bit of extra looking. And my favorite part about this whole thing is this right here, because when was this book from? 1989. So this has lasted much longer than 1989. I'm 39 years old, and when I went to university, we still had microfilm and microfiche. So seeing that, him using the microfilm and microfiche machines to go through old news stories and bulletins and stuff, I just thought that was very cool, because when I went to university, we used to actually have to do this stuff. At the end of my tenure, we got to the point where everything was electronic and you can get journal articles, and all of this stuff was available online. But at the beginning, no, I used to do that, and so I like that. And so, he's going over all the materials that he's gotten. He figures out that Lex got his start in the money business, or I guess got his first bit of fortune when he was able to claim huge life insurance policy on his parents, who he was not a fan of. And so he apparently got $300,000. This was when Lex Luthor was a kid. Considering this was being written in the late 80s, you would have to think that would make Lex Luthor's insurance policy thing at least have been in the 40s or so. You would think. I don't know, though. I'm trying to do simple math in my head, and I can't because I don't know how old Lex Luthor is. Anyway, they're still interrogating Clark, trying to let him know, and that they know that it was him. Clark, of course, isn't going to budge because, well, Superman's not going to kill anybody. He did see Sans, and he tells them here he went over to there after work. He could tell right away, before he even knocks on the door, he's standing in the hallway and he's just hearing all of the bad stuff coming out of the adjacent apartments, because clearly this is to show us that we're in a very bad area. So he comes in. He won't tell Clark anything specifically, but he knows that Clark is friend to Superman. So he's hoping that Clark will get Superman to come to see him, at which point he'll show Superman all about this evidence that he has. He won't say what it's for, what it's about, and he just knows that he's going to need protection. And so now we're back over here talking about, they're writing about how Sans is going to find the grade 7 teacher of Lex Luthor, because he doesn't have any school records after the 7th grade and no living relatives. So he goes to visit this last teacher, noting that, this is what Social Security gets you, I guess making a comment about the times. And, she's wondering what a reporter wants. So, he explains, comes in, she starts to tell about Lex, how he was, not always the nicest kid in the world. I found this very interesting, just a little throw in here. It says his only friend as a boy was named Perry White, who is of course somebody important in the Superman world. I'll just say that. He might be the editor of a newspaper. It might be called the Daily Planet. Something along those lines. So, but she does tell a story about how there's these two kids that picked on Lex, and that one day those kids showed up at school all beat up, and they never picked on him again. And then, he said, I like this little panel here. She's saying he got an insurance settlement for the death of his parents. The little stinker was rich. I just like that. So, flipping in here, we see there's more people that he's going to visit, more people to talk to. This guy seems a little bit more interested in having him come in and talk to him. So he comes into, he invites him in. And this is the guy that had to, who wrote the insurance policy for Lex Luthor's parents, and thought it was very strange, so he personally went to find out about it. Lex's dad tells him to get out of here. He never had any insurance policy. Then a couple days later, he gets a letter from Mr. Luthor Sr., not Lex. He apologized for the way that he had acted, and he now remembered the policy. Then, of course, the next day, Lex Luthor's parents are accidentally killed in an automobile accident. So, Lex had a very early start at this sort of stuff. So his next trip is to find out, or it's not really a trip, it's more of a phone call. He wants to talk to the guy who made the assessment on the Luthor's car that, would say that it was an accident that would allow Lex to collect the $300,000. Funnily enough, shortly after Lex Luthor's parents died, this mechanic managed to buy in a whole bunch of his own shops and become a very rich man himself. So back over here, just more of the interrogation of Clark. Of course, they're letting him know, we know you left his place, and 6 hours later he was found dead by Superman. You were the last person to see him alive. This is all not good stuff. And so, he knows that there's, going to be more footwork for him to do. That's Sans, that is. He's a journalist, after all. He says it right there. And so he decides that he's going to go find an old drinking buddy of his that used to work for Lex Luthor. That's this guy right here, Harry. And so he asks Harry if he'll tell him about Luthor, sort of bribes him with free drinks. So they go and they talk. And this guy, ominous figure here, is just might be listening in on the conversation. And so we come to find out that he began working for Lex Luthor because when he was in Vietnam, he was part of some sort of apparatus that was smuggling heroin in from Asia into the United States. Sans is a little surprised by this, he says, you weren't CIA. This is a little surprising. He says, they were looking for somebody who wasn't afraid to get their hands dirty, and that was him. And so he starts telling them about, the little stuff that went down in the past. So he's learned everything that he knows about Lex Luthor, that he's basically used his money to basically take over companies and, make everybody's life miserable who is in conflict with him. And so then we see here too, they leave the bar. All of a sudden, Harry gets mowed down, and it kind of looks like it was that guy that was in the bar there that's run him over. Not good. Sans is very hurt by this, but not enough to, make one final call before he's done. So the last person that he's gonna go visit is this lady, Miss Dugan, who used to be a girlfriend of Lex Luthor years ago. Now, and she's, you can see here, he's made an appointment. She's waiting for him. Then she just basically starts to talk about how, you know, she was a mechanical engineer or some kind of engineer who had just finished school. She starts working for Lex Luthor's company because she was very interested in the whole tech thing. They become lovers very quickly, as you can see. And you can see here, she was okay with everything until she started finding out who he really was. And we can only assume he's making some sort of threatening phone call in her presence. She tried to get away from him. He wouldn't let her. But she did eventually get away from her. And then basically what she's saying is that, you know, they used to desire each other. Now he hurts her instead. Basically she's saying that he rapes her. And so, you know, she's saying that that's all she's gonna say. She quit LexCorp and left and ran away. And this sort of leads to the only thing that kind of bothers me about the entire book is that she says, I managed to get another job with Star Labs, a competitor of his, a company he hasn't been able to hurt. Star Labs is in Central City, not in Metropolis. He didn't take a train to Central City. He went, like, uptown. I know it's a small thing, but it's not the same city. So she does wish that there was a way that she could hurt him, though. So, you know, as we can see here, Sans heads back to his apartment, gets inside, realizes his place has been ransacked, hopes that in a drunken stupor he was smart enough to put the tapes in a bag in the toilet tank, which he did. So now he realizes he needs to contact Superman because he's pretty much dead. And he knows that Clark Kent is apparently a friend of Superman, so he's gonna contact Clark. And so, you know, more of the interrogation. There's really nothing special going on there, just Clark saying that, like, you know, I didn't do it. Last time I saw him, he was alive. And so, you know, he's telling a story here, how he left. And then this part, he's not telling them. This is in Clark's mind, how he sees on TV, hears about an earthquake that has happened in Tokyo, and there's thousands of people that are stranded under the rubble, and Superman flies off to go help in Tokyo. And so we have here, Sans is at home. We know who this guy is. The guy who killed his buddy comes, sprays something in his face. He passes out, I guess. They bring him into Lex's office. I really like the art on the Lex Luthor panels. I just like the really evil look on his face. Everything is, you can't ever really see his full face. It's all good stuff. He's basically just telling Sans, you know, I know what you're doing. You're not gonna do it. I'm gonna pay you to stop. We'll see about that. But we're gonna pay him to stop. But since you're here, feel free to ask any of the questions that you want. So he asks, you know, why'd you kill your parents? And he explains the situation. He says, if you knew them, you wouldn't think that I'm such a bad guy. And then, you know, just more of the one last question. He said, why do you do the things that you do? He starts laughing. He says, why? And then he says, life is short. I could have become like my parents. I had to choose to wallow in, had I chose to wallow in cheap emotion and self-loathing as they did. Instead, I chose to become a god. I control human lives. Instead of being controlled, I can destroy someone with a phone call. So, you know, interesting stuff because, you know, we know that Superman is viewed as something of a god anyway, at least by the people in Metropolis. And, you know, he like a god must be severe. This was an interesting chat, Mr. Sands, but I'm afraid your time is over. And sends him out. They spray the stuff in his face again, take him back to his place, and stab him. You can see him using his finger to write Clark Kent's name. So then, interrogation is still happening, at which point a lawyer walks in and says that she's Clark's attorney. He says he doesn't have one. They want to know what's going on here, and they say basically the other cop there that is watching on the other side says leave the lady alone with her client. Don't worry, the tape's still rolling. We're still gonna see what's going on. And so basically, you know, she comes in there and says that she's going to help him out, basically. And she says, I've been hired by Mr. Lex Luthor to ensure you're free and clear of any charges against you. Mr. Luthor became very concerned when he heard you were in trouble. I'll bet he was, is Clark's response. And she says, he wants you to understand that he might not be able to help you in the future should this ever happen again. And then Clark wants to know what he wants from him. And she basically says, you know, you're Superman's closest friend. You know things about him. You'll be receiving a call from Mr. Luthor. At which point, that's the end of the interrogation. Clark is free to go. And then we see Lex turns off the TV or the recording, the tape, and calls his girlfriend Lisa, says that he wants her in there now. And then he says, you know, She asks him, did you enjoy the tape? And she says, he responds, sorry, let me show you. Because after all, actions speak louder than words. And Lex getting down to do his thing. So, I wanted to bring this to you for this 4th Wacky Wednesday, just because I think it's a cool story. It's a different, we get Lex Luthor and Clark Kent, but we really never see Superman. Peter Sands is the star of the show. Neither Lex nor Clark or even Superman are. So I just thought that was some neat stuff. So thank you once again for joining me here for Wacky Wednesday on the Son of the Morning channel. If you like this content, please subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, like the video, all that good stuff. You can also leave some comments down below, or you can always hit me up over on Twitter at sonofthemorning7. So, until next time, see ya.